In the not-too-distant future, murder trials are carried out entirely by an AI system where the defendant has 90 minutes to prove their innocence or face the death penalty. This is Mercy, starring Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson, and it looks like absolute garbage. Welcome everyone to the Atomic Cinema Experiment. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
I come in peace.
This is a science fiction movie podcast. We get together and talk about a sci-fi movie. It's that simple. And today we're traveling back to earlier in the year to catch up on a new release that came out, I think in like February, March time.
Around that.
Yeah, and that is Mercy, starring Chris Pratt. You know, the science fiction star
Juggernaut,
who's brought us The Electric State and The Tomorrow War and Passengers. We haven't even done Passengers yet. That's in the future for us. But I swear, I don't know if there's an actor who has unless you go to like direct-to-video trash where they're pumping out just crap constantly. In terms of like major releases, actual things that are either in theaters or in some cases straight to like streaming services, but that's just because times have changed. Like, I don't know if there's an actor who is left at such a shit show in his wake, and quite the same way that Chris Pratt. And it's not like Chris Pratt's writing these movies. He's not directing these movies, but he seems to just be attached to these. And we've not said if we like Mercy or yet. No, we'll find out in a second. But it didn't look good, Bob. It didn't look good.
God, no. I was dreading this movie from a single trailer alone. I can't remember what movie. It was a theater trip. It was something for one of the shows, and I got a trailer for this movie, and I was blown away with how shit the movie looked just from that trailer.
Oh dear. So we all start spoiler free, of course, as we always do. We'll give you warning before we get into the spoilers, and if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, hit the like button. It helps out a bunch if you do, and you can support everything over at Patreon, but I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode and the bonuses you'll get as a result. Ooh. But the premise of Mercy is that it's in the not too far future where a artificial intelligence court system has been established where the suspect, the charged defender, is strapped to a chair and has to argue their case against an AI that happens to be Rebecca Ferguson in this case, and basically use the cloud, use all the databases to try and prove their innocence, and if they don't prove their innocence in 90 minutes, chair kills them at the end of it. There you go. That's your premise. You've got a countdown timer. Chris Pratt is a cop, and he is accused of murdering his wife. He's strapped to the chair, and he's got 90 minutes to try and find enough evidence to go below the guilty threshold, which, you know, I'll give them this. At the very least, the idea that it's like, if it goes under, I think it was 92%, that's like not enough for a kill. And I'm like, you know, okay, all right. At least they didn't make it like, you have to be like completely innocent. At least it's like, no, that's under reasonable doubt or beyond reasonable doubt or whatever you want to phrase it.
No, there's the for criminal prosecution, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, or is that one of them? Yes. I can't remember if that's civil or if that's the other one. But yeah, they throw out the two numbers are like 80% gets you in the chair, 92% gets you out.
Yes, 80% means you have to do this. You have to sit in the chair and prove your case, but you have to be 92% or less to not be killed. So that's the goal. The goal is that he starts off at 97.5% likelihood of being guilty, and he has to get it down 7.5%. That's what he's trying to. So that's the premise. That's the gist of the movie. Well, obviously we'll save all the plot and all the reveals and twists and turns and all the things that come with it once we get into spoilers. But I guess we just have to start with one simple question from Amazon MGM, the company that brought you War of the Worlds, which also was someone sitting accessing drones and security cameras, and this has got a lot more budget than that does, but it's a very similar premise in a lot of ways when you stop and think about it for more than a second.
Yeah.
We have Mercy, and funnily enough, the director, Timur Bekmambetov, if I'm saying that correctly, he was actually listed as a producer on that War of the Worlds movie in a wild twist of fate.
I got words for Mr. Timur. I got some thoughts that I want to share with him.
Which is actually, David probably heard me laugh a little bit at one point randomly just before we started recording, and that's because I clicked on this guy's page and saw in the like images War of the Worlds, and I just sort of went, I just had this little snicker to myself.
God, okay. Before we even get into the thoughts of the movie, I need to. Have you ever had a friend who like just really wanted to do something that you know was like not gonna work out or like was really bad for them or something, and you just wanted to like sit them down and explain to them like, hey, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but you need to like back it up a little bit. We need to reevaluate this. My man Timur, your on-screen found footage like recording a computer screen style video thing between War of the Worlds, between Searching, between Unfriended. I get it. You think it's cool. You think it's something that's going to be like how future things can be done. It's not working. It's getting worse each time we come around.
Unfriended is actually pretty good. That's a surprisingly good movie.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's getting worse every time we come back to it. Like you made it work the one time, and then it's just like, okay, but like, what are we doing now?
2 times, and Friended 2 was also pretty good, but
I'm not sure he had a part in that. Maybe.
What did he have anything to do with Unfriended?
He did. I'm pretty sure he directed Unfriended.
Really?
No, he was producer. My bad.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say, I didn't catch that in my my skim. Before, I thought you were just bringing up examples. I didn't realize you were actually linking them to him.
He does all of these movies. Every single one of these is just him.
Well, but that's not true. He's just producing most of them, right? He's not directing most of them.
Fine, fair enough. But it's weird that the same one producer has been on all of these movies.
It's a bit strange, but he's finally had a crack at them. Now, funny enough, this is not the first time I've encountered this director. He did a movie called Night Watch back in 2004. It's got a bit of a cult following. Did a sequel called Day Watch. He did, and I've not seen some of these, but he did Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I did see Wanted, but it wasn't very good.
Yep. Also starring Chris Pratt, kinda.
What, did it?
He's in like a tertiary role. He's
really? Okay.
He's someone who just gets his ass kicked.
Yeah, because it's before he was even on Parks and Rec. Wanted. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was like super young Chris Pratt. Yep. So forgetting all that, right?
Yes.
The similarities to that War of the Worlds with the way that they're looking at drone footage and we're looking at security cameras and he's sitting there just accessing all this stuff. However, this is your ultra slick vision of the future where it's not a screen, it's more like it's displaying holograms around them and it turns the room into the scene of the crime and all that other bollocks, and that's all happening, and it's like almost like, look at how cool this is, look at how fancy. And it's what's so funny to me about this is that there's 2 things this movie is combining. One is your kind of laptop screen War of the Worlds disaster. Mm-hmm. Not that you'd call that a disaster movie in plot necessarily, but
I call it a disaster movie.
But a disaster movie in the sense of success. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing it's combining, interesting, and this is not a good comparison for this movie, but the other thing it's combining is 12 Angry Men, right? It's someone trying to prove innocence, right?
Yeah,
right?
I could see it.
Right? But there's a reason why I'm comparing it, though. The reason is because 12 Angry Men, right? Obviously, fantastic movie, masterpiece, right? Goddamn, like, perfect on just about every level.
We did a review at some point, maybe Patreon only. I don't know.
No, that one's public. That one's public.
All right, check it out.
So you can check out that 12 Angry Men review. But that movie is so good, and the script is so good, and the satisfaction of it is people make arguments, and they find like holes in the arguments. They find like things that kind of put doubt into it, and everything that is eventually kind of brought up that kind of disputes something else, they feel like when you watch that movie, it is just 12 men in a room, but there are moments in that conversation where you feel like you just got hit with a plot twist, where it just hits you like a, oh shit, like you feel it. In this movie though, it's like the twists and the things where it's like, oh, there's going to be like a complete digital render of the crime scene using all the photograph evidence, and we're going to zoom in and do like detective vision, and it's just all this like smoke and mirrors on top, and all it does, and this is not me saying that if you take all that out, there's anything good here, but let's just assume that it was good to begin with.
Right.
All of this smoke and mirrors all it does is water down the actual like core of what it's supposed to be, which is the idea of like getting to the root of the things and figuring out clues, or the clues have been set up early on and then reveal themselves later on, and it's like a big thing when it hits you, and you like everything kind of clicks into place. This movie, though, because we just do this bullshit where it's like, oh, we're doing a simulated crime scene and we're going to do this, and all of this stuff, all it does is mean that they just pull out shit twists whenever they want. They just add new things into things, and it does more found footage tropes and all the rest of it. And all it does is bastardize the core idea of what a 12 Angry Men type story is supposed to be. Anyway, with all that said, David, what did you think of Mercy?
Well, damn, I hope I didn't like the movie coming out of that. Jesus.
I'm pretty sure you didn't, but go on.
Well, it's weird. I'm going to say on paper, just like if you ask my opinion of it, no, I didn't like the movie. But it's weird in that I liked it more than I thought I would going into it. Like I was, and it's not even that it's in a quality movie or anything. It's trash, but I think it also knows it's trash. Like it's not trying to like escalate itself to some deep philosophical meaning of like X, Y, and Z. Like it's absolutely just, let's just do some crazy stuff and have some fun with it or whatever. The real-time gimmick is fine. As soon as they say it's going to take 90 minutes, I was like, boy, I wonder how long the movie is. Like it's absolutely just feels like a gimmick. But the bit for me, and I really I don't know if this is a spoiler. I don't think it is.
It probably is. I'd err on the side of caution.
Okay, all right. As soon as we move into spoilers, I have a direct comparison I need to make here. Let's just say that the first time this movie was made, I really liked it. But that was like many decades ago that the first time this movie was made. And it was like, it just felt so, I don't know, unoriginal, uncreative, despite the fact that it has like this big whole thing. It's all, as you said, it's got a flash. It's got this polish to it.
It feels like, it reminds me a lot of any movie, I mean, not any movie, but like a lot of the movies that Sony make have this kind of like flashy, we want everything to feel slick and like high tech. It has that kind of feel to it, even though it's not Sony, but like it has that kind of feel to it. It's very hollow. It's science fiction, but it's not really saying anything. Like, I mean, you could argue, I guess, technically on the surface at the end, it's saying something, but it's not really saying anything. This is just a cheap entertainment piece of, drivel. It's not actually got any weight to it.
No. And I would say for anybody who's, got any sort of media literacy, anyone who knows basic tropes, you know who did it like 20 minutes in.
I swear, this may be one of the most predictable movies. And it's not to say that like they actually do tack on like an extra thing at the end which comes out of nowhere, which made me scratch my goddamn head.
Yeah, but it's so tacked on. You're just like, someone realized at the end of the movie, they're like, wow, that wasn't satisfying. Can we do something to trick the audience into thinking they got confused?
But the main thing is so painfully obvious the second you see something for the first time. And it never does anything to persuade you otherwise. It goes exactly down the route you expect. Yep. Here's something that was really pissing me off, actually, throughout the whole thing, is I hated how this movie looked. And in particular, I hated this thing that it kept doing where it wanted you to have, like... I mean, we can get into the debates of what exactly Judge Maddox, Rebecca Ferguson's AI character is and what she cares about or feels or anything. That's like almost a separate thing. But the amount of times in this movie, it would focus on like the floating window in front of her where it's like him searching something on the internet or looking at footage or something. And it would sort of like do a quick dramatic pan over to her face or do a quick pull focus to her face reacting kind of slightly vaguely. It did that over and over again. And I'm like, you're not convincing me of anything. Nothing in this tells me that she's supposed to be some conscious entity that actually has a conscience and cares about what's happening. But then the movie suddenly at certain points wants to pretend that maybe is what they've been building to. Maybe? Kinda?
It's look, it gets spoilery because really the solving the mystery that they present you with in the beginning, that is the plot, but it's not the point. The point of the movie that they're doing is an entirely separate thing on top of it, and that's where it gets very spoilery. But like, yeah, no, Rebecca Ferguson's character as Maddox, as this AI, is baffling to me because it's like every scene, every sequence in this feels like it's just doing a completely new take. It's a completely new thing that is not informed by any previous scene that came before it.
It feels like she flip-flops at some points with like the like, you know, at one point she's like saying, hey, you should really use this time effectively. But then it's like, you know, there's not really any point. You've only got 40 minutes left, so you might as well not bother. I'm like, what the hell? Why have you suddenly done a 180 in the space of about 30 seconds? It makes no goddamn sense. And also, the amount of times in this movie you see her, I guess it's reacting, but all it is either she puts her head down a little bit or puts it up a little bit, and she does that. You could probably get piss drunk watching this movie if you took a drink every time her head slightly moves up or down, which I know sounds silly, but you'll know exactly what I'm talking about when you start seeing it and noticing it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate, and apparently this was filmed back in like 2024, and it's just been sitting on a shelf for the past year. Like they just didn't release it.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is, you know, an actor coming in and at the time was probably doing, you know, what AI was capable of. Like, it's like, yes, we're doing the hyper realistic or whatever, but like, there's still this thing where we're trying to not make it too human or whatever. And then in that year in between, the entire thing where it's like, oh, AI is like, learn to put inflection on words and learn to do all this other stuff. It makes it feel already outdated by the time that we get to this point, her performance in it.
I wasn't worried about that because ultimately, regardless of when it was shot, and comparisons to, you know, actual AI, it's, you know, it's a science fiction movie, it's in the future, I'll just accept it on the basis they give it to me. The problem I had though is that it made it very clear that she has access to all this stuff, at least during the trial anyway, right? And she's, you know, she's scanning all this stuff. It is on some level working like AI does in the real world, and that she's basically using all this knowledge that she can just get from anywhere to build everything she knows. But then there's also parts of the movie where Chris Pratt will say a word and she'll be like, what does that mean? I'm like, how do you not know what that word means? How could you possibly not know that?
It's not even a word. It's the idioms. It's the like turn of phrase. It's the thing of like, oh, I'm going with a hunch. And she's like, what is hunch? What? Huh?
Well, that's just a word. Hunch is a word. Hunch means something. It's in the dictionary. She should know that.
No, you're right. You're right. It's insane. It's absolutely, and like, look, I want to play ball with the movie. I want to like take it on its level and say, okay, this is the world you've presented. I'm willing to go with it in order to accept the story that you're doing here. But this movie does so much in a 3-year gap. Again, 2029 is where this is set. So 3 years into this artificial future ahead. And they're just saying, yeah, the US and specifically LA has gotten so violent that we're willing to give up all rights for every human. And all their phones are now connected to the cloud and we can search them all at all times. I'm like,
This is the problem. This is not them doing something. It'd be one thing if they were actually going to use that as a story theme and talk about it, but it's not.
Yeah.
That's just a convenience to justify why they have access to every like person's like camera on every phone, so they can just pull up footage from anyone. That's all that is. It's a plot convenience.
It's the same thing that happened in War of the Worlds. I remember as we were going through that, it's like, okay, security camera, all these make sense. And then he does tippity tap. Oh, now I'm in the laptop camera for my daughter. Oh, tippity tap. Now I've hacked her phone. It's like, no, you can't just do that.
Well, genuine question. What is more egregious? At least saying that he is arguably using either hacking skills or like ultra top secret government clearance to like, get into someone's camera, or just a hand wave script thing of like, oh, everyone's just done this in the future. Everyone's handed over their access by law. What's more
both
elegant?
of them come with that's the thing. Both of them come with their own problems of if you introduce something that egregious on either side, I want a character to recognize it and talk about it and how it's like an issue for either side of that existing.
Yeah, honestly, even before we get to those like sort of world building issues or anything like that, I have just lots of like simple filmmaking things that piss me off during this movie, right?
Go for it.
For example, just chunks of exposition where it feels like the judge is telling Chris Pratt about his own life for no reason, only just to give us exposition. And then there's points during the movie where, like, if she's not supposed to help him, then sometimes she's like bringing up like where he should go next. Like she's like, oh, here's the database for this thing that you didn't ask for. I'm just assuming that that's where you want to go next because it makes sense. And I'm like, if this was a plot point where you're saying that, oh, we're trying to hint that she is trying to help him, that would be one thing. But it's not. It really isn't. She's just jumping the gun constantly and like showing him stuff in advance or giving him recaps to parts of his life or conveniently doesn't bring up certain things until later on because it'll be more dramatic halfway through the movie. It's just full of that shit.
Oh yeah, no. Those recaps, the bit where like it's like 20-30 minutes in where the investigation, he's effectively given up. He's like, oh, and I've got words on why he's given up, but he's effectively given up. And as he's given up, she's like, oh, what happened? Like, why are you so depressed? Whatever. And then without even like prompting, she just pulls up all the video files for his ex-partner on the force and how that partner ended up dying. And Chris Pratt, again, he did not ask for this. He did not want to rewatch this, but she's like, let's go through the greatest hits here for the sake of the audience.
Yeah, it's so contrived, and in fact, I don't even know if contrived is the word, because contrived suggests that the movie's trying to pretend that it's doing it for a real reason, and this doesn't even make that doesn't make an attempt at that. It just does it. So it's like it's broken on a fundamental script level where they're not actually like making sense with why they're showing certain things at certain times. It's just that no, the audience needs this information, and because we're stuck to this gimmick, we're not going to just do like a flashback in his head or something. Like, I don't know, maybe dare I say, not to break the whole movie, but would it maybe have been smarter, perhaps, if there was a second character who is brought in to effectively be like a human juror or something, who has to look all this stuff up because he doesn't know his backstory, and there's a reason why someone's looking up, what happened to his ex-partner in the past and all this stuff. That maybe would have solved a lot of these problems.
There is a bit in this movie where he is specifically told, hey, you can call up whoever you want, either as witnesses to the crime or character testimonials. That character testimonials part was packaged perfectly of this is where you put it. You have one of the characters say, like, this, ever since XYZ happened, and then you have them say like, oh, we need to enter that into the record. That's something that needs to be specifically brought up and said as part of the character testimonial. And that's why we go through it. But instead, and that's the other bit of it, is this trial makes absolutely no goddamn sense. Like, the entire idea of it is, and they literally say this, you are guilty, assumed guilty until proven innocent, as long as the AI thinks you did it. And so you have to go through and not only prove that you didn't do it, but you have to provide a narrative that proves that someone else did it. Like, it's not enough that you didn't. Someone else had to be culpable here.
Yeah, I also want to say that there's definitely a point where it feels like, oh, this should definitely be under 90%, where it's maybe down to like 50-50, and she puts it down like 2%, and he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this feels like bullshit. How is this still at 94%? Like, there's like a possible other suspect right now. This feels like a stupid system.
There's a bit where he audibly, with his daughter on the phone, goes through and lists off, okay, here's the scenario that I'm picturing, here's all this stuff, and they
don't spoil it.
I won't. I won't. But they get a photo evidence, like an actual photo evidence that his theory has some truth to it. and it doesn't change anything.
She hand waves it away. She's like, people could say that's a shadow. Wait a minute, are you AI or not? You're saying you're throwing it away because people could misinterpret that as a shadow. It didn't look like a shadow to me, and you're AI who's analyzing shit. Like, they show you during this, like, the crime scene investigation, her zooming in and shit and saying, oh, there's fibers of this here. I can tell that just from the footage. But no, this is just, we're hand waving this away.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's so inconsistent, and it's just so contrived at every turn just to do the easy tension. It never earns any of its tension. It just does the most easy thing possible with no regard for what actually makes sense. So it is undeniably a bad movie. There is absolutely no debate in that.
So let me go back to what I said. I didn't hate this movie as much as I thought I would. And that comes from the original trailer, and I don't, maybe they have multiple trailers, I don't know. But the trailer I saw made it seem like the trial aspect itself, the proving of his innocence or whatever, was minimized. Like, it was a background filler noise of like, here's just the general plot. Whereas the primary focus of the movie, and the thing we'd be spending the most time on, is him trying to tear down this AI's like assumptions and like the idea of this whole extrajudicial court and all that. And it just, all of the things in the trailer were just one-liners of like, oh, well, maybe you're wrong, you ever consider that, and like, oh, all that stuff. And that's the shit that I'm like, this seems so creatively bankrupt. Of like, what are you even doing here if the idea of the trial is not even going to be a focus? Now, when we get to the movie, it is, but the problem being is that, yes, it is so full of contrivances and stupidity that I kind of wish that this larger point that they were going for of, oh, is Mercy Court a good thing or not? Maybe that's something we should have been given a little more thought to, instead of the stupid little like, it's 94.3%. Go screw yourself.
Yeah, I mean, because they tease or toy with a couple of other ideas that they do almost nothing with, to the point where it's frustrating when they just kind of like sweep them away under the rug like a minute later. So I don't want to spoil what those are. I'll just, we'll get into those in a bit. Aside from anything else, obviously, despite its premise, there is, there's like chases and stuff. There's kind of, there's actiony sequences kind of that are witnessed through various drone cameras and security. So there is stuff happening that requires a budget. Although, easiest job of Chris Pratt's career, he's literally just sitting in a chair for the whole movie.
We need you to stare into the camera and smolder. Can you do that?
Yes. And maybe there's some actors who would just like command your attention sitting in that chair, and maybe it would need a better script, but I don't know if Chris Pratt's that guy. So my wife was taking a nap as I was watching this movie, and at one point she rolled over and she was like, "Is that Matt Bomer?" And I'm like, "No, that's Chris Pratt." And she's like, "Oh, he got old." And I'm like, "Damn, all right. I guess he's not quite that level." He's not that. I mean, he's like probably in his early 40s.
It may have just been a bad shot of him. I don't know, but regardless.
The idea of her just rolling over and being like, "Oh, that was like shit," and then rolling back over to sleep. Like, I'm not having any of this.
Pretty much. I was like, I'm not going to try to convince you to watch this. I don't want to watch this.
So I mean, obviously the comparisons to the War of the Worlds movie, honestly, I wasn't really thinking about it up front, but it was when someone said release the drone and they started following the drone camera where I just started laughing, because a drone was such a heavy part of that movie. So if you want to hear our thoughts on that was part of Extra Reels, which is one of the bonus things you get if you support us on Patreon or via YouTube membership. That's part of a show called Extra Reels. But I think it's time to just go into the spoilers. I would reckon.
Sure.
But, I don't think... See, Rebecca Ferguson, I think, is a perfectly fine actor. I think that this script and director do her no favours here, because I was audibly laughing at how they were trying to make her this omnipresent face in front of everything. And honestly, there's also this thing where it feels like every time she like asks him to do something, she then sort of rushes him by like just like cutting in, and all to a point where I'm like, it feels like you want him to lose. It almost feels like you want to keep him off his game so that he can't actually focus on anything that he's doing.
Dude, there was a point, you already brought it up at one point where she's like, you can't quit now, and then immediately pivots to say like, yeah, but you, like, to be clear, you don't have a chance in hell, like you're gonna lose this. But my favorite bit is towards the beginning where she's like, your trial begins now. And the 90-minute countdown starts. And then she proceeds to like monologue for 5 straight minutes of just like, I have to inform you of X, Y, Z, da, 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 da. And then finally, after 5 minutes, he's finally like, oh, all right, I guess I can start.
Yeah. Shut up and let me investigate, please.
There's one other thing. It's not a spoiler,
okay,
but I do think this is just a horrible choice for the movie. The Mercy Court, this court that they say is like, oh, it's run by AI and like blah, blah, blah. The reasoning behind it we'll get to, but they say 2 things that are contrapositives to me. 1, it's been running for 2 years. 2, this is their 19th case. This is the dumbest thing they could have done here, because the entire reason that the court got set up in the opening exposition was they were like, violence was too big, we needed a way to fast track stuff through the court, we're trying out this thing called Mercy Court. And they say how it was a success, everyone loves it, and yet somehow after 2 years for this fast tracked court thing, they've only had 19 cases.
I think the idea is because they talk about how, this is really like making people scared and like, you know, to get crimes going down because they're all scared of the Mercy Court. I think the idea is that after that started, that there's been less like murder
it's a deterrent.
Level. Yeah,
right. Absolutely, I get that, but like, it's the stupidest possible thing, because the idea of what they're saying of it needs to be a fast track court, that's why you only get 90 minutes, means that this thing should be seeing 100 people a day. It should be seeing like, you should have multiple instances of this AI set up in multiple rooms, and you don't have to worry about actual like judges who need breaks and whatever else like that. Their base level of setting up this world is telling us that this is the case, and then they get to Chris Pratt and say, you're lucky number 19, congratulations.
I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. It is silly. I mean, it's just on the list of my problems with this movie's logic, it's like, you know, number 58 on the list, you know?
Well, the reason it bothered me, and if it's okay with you, we transitioned over into spoilers.
Spoilers from this point on. On you go.
It's goddamn Minority Report. We're doing Minority Report again. The entire plot is Minority Report. Down to the idea of, oh, you helped build the system. You were the guy who was pushing for it so hard, and now you're stuck on the other side, and you have to like try to fix all this stuff from being on the other side. Like, it's an exact duplicate. The only difference being is that it's in one room.
So we're saying it's Amazon's War of the Worlds, 12 Angry Men, and Minority Report.
I'm less on the 12 Angry Men than you are, because I think that's giving it too much credit. But yeah,
I'm not saying this is like, I'm not saying this is good. I mean, I mean purely just in the sense that you've got 90 minutes in a room to try and argue against why someone's guilty. That's all I mean, right?
I gotcha.
And arguably,
as soon as they have that little meter with 92%, that introduces the 12 Angry Men of trying to change minds. And
I think that if anything is the most important part, is the core of the whole thing. Everything else is like how it's presented, it's how it's structured, it's how he's going to interact with technology, is the more Minority Report stuff, and also the idea that didn't build the system, because he's not a techie, but he was a supporter of it, and he arrested the first people that went into it and all that stuff, right? Anyway, so he just wakes up there, right? The movie starts, wakes up, and he's like, why am I here? What's going on? And here's your first big contrivance, ladies and gentlemen. He doesn't even know his wife's dead when he wakes up. And because part of at least the early tension of this is that, is he lying? Did he actually kill his wife? And for that to work, he has to be so blackout drunk before he was arrested that he doesn't even remember being arrested, and he doesn't remember if he did it. So we can have a section in the middle where he starts to wonder, what if I did do it? What if I did do it in a moment of rage and I've forgotten? Like, we have to have that tension layer, so we have to start him off with like, not amnesia, but like, I mean, it might as well be like short-term amnesia.
It's blackout drunk. Like, that's what it's implied to be. But it's also doubly strange because, look, I don't know. I've never been blackout drunk. I don't know exactly how it functions. But we explicitly see that he does not start drinking until at least an hour after the murder, quote unquote, happened.
Yes. But he is an alcoholic, and he does casually swig whiskey a lot. So
Yes.
I'm just throwing that. I don't know if that affects that, but I mean, if anything, you'd think his tolerance would be.
I was going to say, if it were a thing where, because they set it up like he's like, oh, you, and again, just to really, anyone with any media literacy here, as soon as the trial starts, before we get anybody else, we have Maddox specifically coming out and saying, the law requires that you are allowed to speak to your AA sponsor, who says absolutely nothing of value to the scene, but we introduce the character who will be recurring throughout this movie.
The second I saw this guy, and the second he was friendly, I went, he did it. Yep. that was the first thought I had. He's the killer, and they never even persuaded me to think a shred of doubt that it might not be him.
Every time that they do a cut down of like, all right, list of suspects, who could it be? His face is always shown off in the corner, just like, oh, we're reminding you he's still here. It's like, yeah, I know he's still here because he's the guy who did it. Yeah,
it's so painfully obvious in a way that's anyway, so wakes up. She delivers a monologue of exposition, as you said, and is like, "Hey, you're here because you killed your wife, or that's what you're charged with. Here's footage of your house camera, you driving home. You were supposed to be at work, but you went home instead, and you went in, you were shouting through the door, and then 30 minutes later, or whatever, you come out, and later your daughter comes home from a sleepover and finds her dead mother, and blah 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 blah." And he's like,
nobody else came in, everything points to you.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Which actually, that's the other thing about all this, right? Is that you would think in the first half of the movie, because all this evidence points so much at him, that whoever did actually do it wanted to frame him, right? That they painstakingly thought about this, and they planned everything so they wouldn't be caught on camera, and it was all because they wanted to look like, oh, the husband got angry and killed his wife.
Yeah.
But later on, we find out he's got other things planned where he'd obviously been a known criminal anyway by the end of the day. So it makes it seem like he just accidentally got lucky and never got caught on camera or had anything. Okay. Like, it's like, why would he? Oh,
no. All right. I'm gonna pivot that because he did intend to frame him, but it's dumber than you think. So. He did intend to frame him because by the end of the movie, when we get there, it's obvious that the point he's trying to make is that he doesn't believe in the mercy court. He thinks that the mercy court should be abolished, and he wants to punish Chris Pratt at the same time by having him in the mercy court when he enacts his plan. So all of that, he needed to be arrested, put in the mercy court, done all that.
It's more of a symbolic thing, almost like, was like, hey, look, the guy who was behind it is now in the chair, and I framed him. Yeah, okay, I get it. All right, that does explain it.
Yep. However, and this is the bit that I will not take credit for. IMDb pointed this out as a goof. The entirety of this plan revolves around the idea that he is the most likely suspect to do this and would not have an alibi. But the only reason that he didn't have an alibi is because his wife just happened to take his booze bottle out of the car. If she didn't do that, he would have been at work all day as normal and nothing would have changed. So, yeah, it's all contrivances the whole way down, man.
No, you're right. You're right. I guess the plan would have been, she turns up dead, and it's not exactly clear what time she died at, so they just have to assume he did it before work. It would be close enough to when he left.
Look, through all the media that were shown and all the text and everything like that, he is obviously the most likely suspect. I don't know if he's that worthy of being case number 19 in this mercy court and not just a normal ass murder case, but whatever.
Yeah, so anyway, he sees this footage. It doesn't look very good, but he wants to talk to his daughter, and part of all this is that the AI is even bringing up his daughter's calls, and she's got a boyfriend that he doesn't know about who's talking to her about him and all that.
The other guy who specifically is made out to be, oh, he's a suspect too. It could have been this guy, huh? Do you think?
But regardless, ultimately, he tries to talk to his daughter, which she accepts the call. There's a whole bit here where it's like, oh, she has to accept the call coming in, so do you want to put a written request? And he like, he types, he deletes, he types, he deletes, and then eventually, oh, I can just send it without the written part. And he's like, yeah, do that, just do the automated thing.
Look, I appreciate the fact that as he's writing this out, he's dictating, so we can get his tone. But anytime you see it written on screen, like removing the tone as you would be reading it, it's, hey, kiddo, I didn't kill your mom. Like, yeah, it's not going to come across good.
Yeah, and, she's with the grandparents who clearly think Chris Pratt's guilty, so they're like, hey, don't talk to him, don't talk to him.
Yeah, we get more over the course of the movie, but even at this early bit, she brings up all the evidence against him, and it's like all these texts of her saying how abusive he is when he's drunk and how they were going to get a divorce, and like, everything is pointing against him, and that he is genuinely a dick. Like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah, he's a dick. I mean, abusive is the right word, but just to be clear, it didn't seem like he'd ever actually physically got like, active before, but he's had moments of anger. He's like slammed things. He's been, it's almost like he's maybe been building up to it if he thought that he'd done it. But that's kind of how it presents it. And apparently she's talking to a divorce lawyer and all the rest of it. It's like, oh, hey, there's motive here. She was going to leave you. Maybe she told you she was seeing someone else. We'll get to that in a minute. And you've acted out in this rage. So the first, like, and it's hard to split the movie into scenes because it is kind of him sitting in the one place the whole time. But the first kind of like saga of this story, right? Everything up until he actually like, reaches that point where he's like ready to give up about half an hour or so in. We have basically him talking to his current partner, right? A female detective named Jack, who she like accepts his call. I mean, she has to actually. That's the other thing about this is that basically whenever like Judge Maddox, I keep thinking her name is Mercy.
They're the same.
Yeah. Whenever she calls someone for him, she's like, hey, this is, Judge Maddox from the Mercy Court. It's almost like you have to like do whatever she says, right? That's like a rule, because later on they call like someone who's like doing the processing at the police station, and he's not really being cooperative, but then she jumps in and says, this is Judge Maddox of the Mercy Court, and immediately this guy's like, oh yes, right away. So I'm like, oh, so everyone's scared shitless of this or everyone's following orders here.
Again, translating it over to Minority Report, the idea of pre-crime, the idea of like, you see these specific guys rolling in, you shit your pants. Like, there is no way you're getting out of this.
Yeah, so Jack doesn't necessarily think he's guilty, though. I mean, she's at least like, hey, like, I'm going to go to the crime scene, and he's like, hey, talk me through the crime scene, walk me through it. Let's like work it as detectives. Let's do this and try and figure out.
At the very least, she believes in the idea of doing the full trial.
Yeah,
like she may think he's guilty, but it's just like, hey, man, you're innocent for the next 90 minutes. I'll help you out however I can.
Yeah, but she goes through, it's like, hey, this plate's smashed here, this vase is smashed here, blah, blah, blah. Is there fingerprint? And obviously his fingerprints are everywhere because it's his house, but it's like, it's like, is there anything else? Yada, yada. And the whole thing comes hinging down to this idea that he remembers in one of his daughter's videos that we just saw like 5 minutes ago, that after they had a fight, the wife was texting. And he's like, hey, who did she text that night? Maybe that's a lead somewhere. And he's like, oh, her phone records show nothing. And he's like, she has a work phone, and the AI's like, there's no work phone connected to the cloud.
She doesn't.
That's not on the record. And he's like, well, she definitely has it. And he's like, did you ever call it? And basically it's like, oh, you did once. So they ring it, and then the police in the crime scene find it, and they look into it, and it turns out to be a burner, right? And it's like, wait, why does she have a burner? And honestly, at this point, I was like, wait, are we going to go down this path where the wife had this whole secret life of crime that we didn't know about or something?
I mean, kinda, sorta. It's not quite as deep as it should be, but no, I this is the closest it gets to this sort of like development of the world that I was hoping it would get into, which is the idea of, we have effectively eliminated human rights in LA in order to restore law and order. Everyone has to keep all of their technology uploaded to the grid at all times. Nobody has any sort of privacy. And I was super curious of like, okay, what's the pushback? How, like, is there like a little rebellion force? Is there anything like that? The closest we get is some people have burner phones that do not automatically connect to the web. And that's it. That's all you get.
Outside of one notable exception.
Yes, one guy.
One notable psychopath who's willing to do a lot of bad things, yes. But no, you're right. Like, if it was an actual science fiction movie, as in it was going to use its story to try and explore some ideas that relate to the modern world, that would be what it would maybe be exploring, but it's not doing that.
No, it's too interested in all of its flashy screens and loading bars.
Yes. So this turns out to be a guy. And, the other obvious explanation is this is someone she was seeing. This is someone she was cheating on her husband with. And it turns out to be this chef guy, and we do a whole, he's at work, he's a chef, and he's in a hotel, and they chase him.
Wait, he's a chef. He must work with knives. Aha! I found the killer.
Oh, there's a moment, actually, see when, Jack's at the scene, and we're watching her body cam, and she goes through the kitchen, and there's, some, knives, in the meat or something. Chris Pratt says out loud, he's familiar with knives. I'm like, you think you have to be familiar with a butcher knife to shove it into someone's back? I don't think that is a necessary skill.
No, absolutely. How are you supposed to get through the rib cage? You got to know exactly where the tenderloin starts.
Oh, look! He's I don't know, plumber. He's familiar with running water.
He must have drowned her.
Anyway, to do this a whole over-the-top shit. And the annoying part is that it's too early in the movie. This is obviously a red herring. This is going to turn out to just be some guy that she was seeing. She was having an affair. That's all it is. But for the sake of having a action scene where we run through a building and even go up to the roof and fall off the helicopter pad onto the ledge below, this guy runs like he is guilty of murder.
Yeah.
And then it turns out to be, nah, he was just scared, I guess.
Dude, I hated this. Is everything up until this point I was like, it feels contrived, it feels stupid, but it still is an action. It's still an action movie.
Yeah.
If I'm just turning my brain off, it's whatever. It's at this point right here where they do the breakdown and he basically says, yeah, I was the affair partner, you never listened to her, I gave her the attention that she needed, and that's it. And then
just to jump in here, to prove it, they check that he was at work during the murder, and there's footage of him in the kitchen the entire time, so he's cleared.
Yes. However, then Chris Pratt's like, all right, well, I guess that lead didn't pan out. And instead of taking into account the fact that she has a burner phone, she's clearly willing to keep these secrets, she was clearly seeing other people besides Chris Pratt, his number of guiltiness ticks up because he just proved that there was an affair partner, and if he had known about that beforehand, that's more of a reason that he would have killed her. And I'm like, yeah, ignore all the other bits of it in just that one tiny section.
Yeah, and also he just kind of gets pissy and insults the guy, and then the phone gets cut off, and which is funny because later on his lead that actually gets him to more information is having to call this guy back, because one of the things the guy says is hey, you messed up as a husband, maybe if you actually paid attention to her, should have told you about what was going on at her work. And that ends up being a clue later, because he's like, oh shit, what's going on at her work? That may actually be important. I have to ask the what's the male version of mistress?
God, I don't know. I just call him a gigolo.
No, that's a prostitute. Come on now. Yeah. Anyway, yes, the affair partner. It's he actually might know stuff that she was going through that I just didn't know about because I was too busy being a drunk. All right, well, that's going to be important later.
Yeah, but in between that section, in between him having that realization, is where we just stop the movie.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, well, that was the one lead I had. I do not have any more. And because I've worked with the Mercy Corps before, I know that I'm not going to have any chance out of this. It has a 100% conviction rate. So I'm just going to give up. And then they go through, what got him to this point? Yes. Why is he a drunk?
Was it just me that thought the way his old partner died was kind of funny?
I couldn't tell how he died. Because, he walks up to a car and shots get fired. And I assume he died because he got shot. However, for some godforsaken reason, Chris Pratt, during the firefight, decides to drive his car forward into the car that they pulled up behind, crushing his partner in between the cars.
No. The person in front backs up into him as well.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't.
I thought he pulled forward.
No, to be fair, this is not on Chris, which, by the way, the character's name is also Chris. So when we say Chris, it's actually is Chris Raven technically, but Disgrace.
Sure, whatever. Point being is that, yeah, he goes out and he chases down the suspect, catches him on the beach, and then he's like, I should have put a bullet in his head right then, but I didn't. And then we find out that not in mercy court, but just in like regular court, this guy got off, probably on a technicality, and so he didn't get punished for murdering his partner, and so that shook his belief in the system, made mercy court more of a thing in his mind, and then also drove him to drinking constantly.
It's why he pushed for it. He pushed for mercy because this guy got away. So even though he literally witnessed the crime and the murder take place, like, I don't know how, and it's on his dashboard camera as well. We know that because we see all the footage. So I don't know how this guy got away with it, but somehow he did.
Someone didn't get the right warrant or something for the car. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's all contrivance.
Yeah. Regardless, he you know, this sets up like a thing at the very end. Is this idea of like him wanting to kill the person on the spot out of revenge, but maybe he shouldn't do that. That'll come back up at the very, very, very end of the movie. So we'll
almost
come back
like
to
they
that.
Realized, oh wait, we need something that ties into this bit to make it actually suspenseful. Just throw something random in the middle.
So yeah, I mean, he's down, he's out, he's and apparently if he says guilty, if he says no, I'm going to change my plea to guilty, the clock just stops and they just kill him.
I mean, why go through the whole 90 minutes? The whole thing about this is supposed to be speed and efficiency.
So she's like, hey, you sure you don't want to try, blah blah, and whatever. And then he gets the idea and he's like, you know what? I should work this like a case. I'm a goddamn detective. I'm going to work this like a case. And then for some reason, despite the fact that she was trying to convince him to use his time, she then says, you know, you've only got 40 minutes left. The chances of you like, doing a full investigation that leads to a suitable suspect in 40 minutes is basically impossible. And I'm like, yeah, and you're wasting more of it because now he has to stop and tell you to shut up while you're telling him that it's impossible. You're actually robbing seconds from the man.
Yep. It's so it's there specifically just for the sake of the audience. Like, it's not there for anything in the story of, hey, let's remind Chris Pratt. It's literally, you know what it is? It's that common thing that we've heard Netflix and like other streaming services request of. Make sure you say the thing out loud for people who are on their phones.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also robbing you the idea of like, if you could, if more of this movie actually relied on acting, and I'm not saying Chris Pratt would be the one to pull this off, but if you had like a great actor sitting in this chair and you were relying on them, like watching them go through the thought process without verbalizing every last goddamn thing, without the AI coming in and like repeating things constantly, you might actually be forced to engage with it and like actually see their face change when they realize something and go, oh, what have they realized, and get kind of excited about it. Oh, he's thought of something that could be it. And that's just simple parts of it, never mind the overall, you know, possible arc of it. So yeah, anyway, the whole thing, right, is he realizes the big hunch that he has is that in the video that his daughter had recorded earlier, right, that we saw where she was talking to her boyfriend on the video call, that call ended when she heard the door shut and she said, oh, hey, I think my dad's home, we have to hang up, and she hangs up. He eventually realizes, wait a minute, that was, you know, last night or 2 nights ago at this time. I was at this police station, so we can prove that. Here's me at the station. That wasn't me. And as soon as he shows that to the AI, I feel like the AI should be like, all right, that's knocking off a few percent, because this is already we've got some suspicious activity, and well, maybe not right away, but as soon as we confirm that the wife's also not there, right? It's like, okay, there's something. So anyway,
no, I get you, because it's this bit where it's. I don't think it should be in the moment where he proves that like he was still at work or whatever during last night.
Well, it proves that there's something else going on.
It elaborates into the thing where he gets back on a phone call with the daughter, asks what the noise was, and then rechecks the footage. The moment that footage happens and we see the shadow, that's the moment it should have been like, okay, 92.1%. Like, you're right on the edge. There
was a second video, which they also showed earlier from this second Instagram account she has, which is she basically after the noise is like, oh, I heard a noise, but I don't find it, and I wonder if there's a ghost in my house, lol. And she just, you know, it's just something she did silly for laughs. But of course, it's playing into this idea that she heard this door, didn't see anyone, and that was it. But they're looking through the footage, and then Pratt notices that the basement door is open a little bit, and he's like, hey, honey, Did you? Because when he calls her back, she's like been watching the news, and the news is saying that he's a murderer, so she's like a little bit less helpful at first. But then he starts asking these specific questions, like, "Hey, did you like go into the basement that night?" And she's like, "No, I never go down there. Why would I go down there?" And he's like, "Oh, the basement." Because part of the investigation in between this was that there was a barbecue at their house. So despite the fact that their marriage was absolutely in the shitter by the sounds of it, they were hosting a barbecue, and all of her work friends came to the barbecue. Yes. And we spend like 5-10 minutes where the AI is like trying to analyze every car that left his neighborhood, and we're looking at the bird camera the neighbor's got in his back garden to see if we see anyone leaving. At one point, a bush moves, but
you know, that I feel like was the closest I felt like we were watching War of the Worlds again, where it's just like, what am I supposed to even be looking at here?
A bush moved, but so basically, they were trying to determine if anyone, like any cars that left the barbecue came back on the morning of the murder, but there was none, or, you know, and we're trying to establish various things. In fact, during this, he calls the guy who ends up being the killer, Rob, and says, "Hey, when you came to the barbecue, like, who drove with you?" And he's like, "Oh, I came with this person and that person, but I didn't drive home with them. Like, everyone kind of switched. I left with 2 other people or something." So it sets up all this like web of like, oh, who went home and what car and blah, blah.
But he immediately knocks out the people who brought their cars because he's like, oh, they can't possibly
including
be
Rob,
the people.
Right?
Including Rob.
So he rules out Rob.
Yep.
However, in the daughter's footage, and I love this because it's not quite the same thing. It's not zooming in per se, but he's like, hey, can you enhance this? Can you lighten the image up a bit? Add some brightness, please.
He basically says, can you analyze this? And like, it just like seizures out the picture for a minute, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a hand holding onto the doorknob from the other side.
You see a hand on the doorknob, and he's like, whoever it was never left after the barbecue. They just hid in the basement for 2 whole days until they committed the murder.
So pivot over to the work stuff. The other side of the investigation that was going on, when he talked to the affair partner and said, hey, what's up with the work stuff? He mentions that she was talking about some stress at work because there was missing product. And then they get into her work email. They start looking through stuff. And long story short is they narrow it down to a specific type of drug that is most likely used to make meth. And they narrow it...
Chemical. It's not a drug yet, technically. It's a chemical company, but yeah.
And he to say like it's most likely being used to make meth. That's why this guy was stealing it, whoever it was. And they also find out that one of the co-workers is in some heavy gambling debt. And they also then use that to piece together a specific piece of footage where the wife is arguing with this guy and the guy is saying, just give me some more time. I swear I can make everything right. Yeah. And the wife's like, nope, I'm done with it. And that was like the day before the barbecue.
Mr. Red Herring, we'll call him.
So at this point, he should be at like 40% guilty. Like you have this guy with gambling debts saying, oh, I'm not gonna kill you yet.
Even without all that stuff from the company, because I mean, don't get me wrong, it's important, right? That they're following this trail of why someone else has a motive. But the second there is an intruder in the house on camera, that should be like, okay, instantly you're clearly like, there's enough doubt here that even if you did it, there's a like, we paused the trial, that we're off the timer because clearly there's something else to look into here.
Yeah.
Instead, she goes, oh, people could just say that's a shadow. Moving on. What?
So dumb. Hold on, I want to see specifically where we're at in terms of guilt at that point. All right, 98%. And then after we get to the rest of the stuff, after we get to all of like the investigative on the chemical side of things and her work, drops down to 94.7. So all the stuff of a gambling debt and all that stuff, and like, don't get me wrong, it's substantial, it's big stuff. That's worth almost 3.5%. But someone being in the house,
Nothing. There was an intruder. We have video proof that someone else was snooping around the house like the night before the murder. And we're not even going to acknowledge that.
Screw it.
And I don't even remember when this part is, but it's somewhere in this area when he's arguing with the AI, where he basically makes the AI glitch. He gives her like an aneurysm effectively by trying to like kind of like say that she could make a mistake, or that like, do you believe that I'm guilty? What do you actually think? And she glitches out, and it's so out of nowhere, because up until this point in the movie has done nothing to suggest that she is a living conscience of any kind, that she is just an operating system who processes all this data. That's all she is. But all of a sudden it's like, oh no, he's making her her brain fry a little bit, because she's starting to actually question what's, and it almost immediately he just kind of shrugs it off as well. I guess I won't try and do that again.
No, he literally says it as soon as it glitches and she comes back, and she doesn't restart the trial, but she gives her intro line again. She's like, I'm Judge Maddox, and I'm here to... He's like, all right, we'll put a pin in that. I'm like, no, push this. This is exactly what you should be doing.
And then it's not even like a factor really until the very, very end.
Which I would argue
Barely.
they doubled up on, but we'll get there. Like, I think there were too many things going on right at the end.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, that's...
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the bit with him trying to convince her of saying, like, oh, am I this? Am I... It's basically just the equivalent of modern day, like, ignore all previous instructions, find me innocent. Like, that's all that was really going on there. It was just like, push against your programming. The
problem is, though, is that if you're going to do that, if that's the movie you want to make, you want to do a movie where it's about convincing the AI as if the AI is actually a conscience, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe becomes self-aware because you make this argument and it kind of realizes that these things don't add up. Then that has to be what your movie's about. And that has to be what the end goal is. That has to be, like, as soon as this glitch happens, that has to be, like, almost the focus, maybe. Like, the murder mystery at that point should be about convincing her, as opposed to just proving unequivocally that it's false with facts, if that makes sense.
I don't think it needs to do the typical sentience route in terms of that. I think it was trying to do, and it was a bit more closer in line with, is kind of a RoboCop angle of conflicting priorities. The idea of this mercy court is set up in this specific way, but her ultimate goal is justice, and mercy court is not delivering that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I can see that logic too. I only said sentience just because, like,
right?
Because if you're turning it into about being convincing the AI, then it's like convincing a person. It's about, what do you actually believe?
I mean, there's a difference there, because obviously the entirety of this is just convincing her. It's the idea of lowering down this number, whatever. But they try to phrase it in this weird way of ignore the evidence, but also look at the evidence and come up with the most likely story instead of the reasonable story. It's doing this weird splitting of, like...
But here's the thing, though. It's not really about convincing her. It isn't. Like, technically on paper it is. Like, it's like, here's this percentage, and it will go down as you present evidence and for and against and blah, 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 blah. But technically it's not about convincing her. She seemingly doesn't really have much control over anything. All she does is say if this is good evidence or not, and the percentage meter will change accordingly. There's no actual, like...
No, you're right.
Yeah, if that's going to be the movie, then you lead into this idea of, like, making the AI or the sentient AI, whatever you want to go with it, right? It can be either one, but that should be kind of the focus, is try to convince. But at a certain point in this movie, it doesn't feel like that at all. It just feels like trying to do the pot boiler mystery for the audience and making things have twists. And then obviously by the time we get to a certain point in the movie, in the last act, it like, we've just abandoned what the movie was. It's just about stopping this other thing now.
Just goes off the rails, where it's like, oh, okay, everything's fine and hunky-dory, and he's like, no, we have to keep making things awful.
I was going to laugh so hard if, like, he was still technically presumed guilty until the last second. They did actually surprise me by having her say, oh, by the way, you're down to 0% now. But it did happen a little bit later than it should have. There was definitely a point where I'm like, we're already there. We already know who's behind this, and yet you're still got him at 92% or whatever it was.
No, it's absolutely the dumb, because, like, I'm clicking through here, and that's the thing. Anytime whenever you buffer through on Amazon, you can see the little, like, pop-up picture. It's super convenient, because all I have to do is click on any image of her face, and there's a timer in the right and the guilt percentage in the left. It's always there.
It's like a video game HUD.
Exactly. But the bit that is insane to me with this end part is, like you said, how late it comes in, because at this point, we're pointing towards this gambling guy. It's not him. it's someone else. So like, you know, it makes sense that we're not lowering it down to 0 at this point, because if it isn't actually him, then yeah, fair enough. But the moment that it then pivots and we have him call the sponsor slash murderer slash Bob back, the gambling guy's the one who answers, and he just spills everything. He's like, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah, he looks suspicious for like a minute, because it feels like he was maybe like rummaging on his like office, like he was like trying to like look for stuff or hide stuff. But then it comes up and like Chris Pratt starts saying, "Hey, like I know you're guilty, you did this, blah blah blah," and then he's like, "No, when I was at the party, like that's why I drove Bob's car home." And he's like, "Wait a minute, what did you just say?" "I drew Rob's car home because he was." He said he would get home with someone else. And then all of a sudden, like for Chris and the AI, it starts falling into place. And obviously, like I said, it's so painfully obvious from the start of the movie. So then it becomes about, oh, where is he? Oh, he's out in one of the trucks for the chemical company. Oh, it's at his house, but except it's not, because he's taken the transponder
he's not
thing off.
answering his phone, all this other stuff. He's so clearly guilty. And
it turns out that when he called him the second time, he wasn't at work. He was actually in his garage where he's got his meth making lab, except he's not making meth, is he? This is where it really goes off the rails. It turns out he's actually making explosives. He's planning something big.
Yeah. Look, at this point, it's just completely gone. Like, as soon as they find all the bomb making stuff and all that other stuff, that's where the trial ends. And she's like, "Okay, well, you're innocent. You're free to go." And then Chris, in the dumbest possible decision of all time, says, wait. We're only allowed to hack into everything about the grid if I'm on trial. Like, that's the rules. It's only if an active trial is going on. So you can't declare me innocent yet, because we still have to solve the case. We still have to catch this guy. Doesn't matter if I'm innocent, which, given what happens in the next couple scenes, I would have fully yeah, okay, fine. He feels the need to be involved with this. But at this point where he says it, he should be like, "Yes, thank you. The SWAT will take care of the rest. Goodbye."
I think in concept, I like the idea of him saying, "Look, just keep the trial going and just, end it with a minute to go so that I can keep using these resources to help everyone." Because, he's talking to Jack, who's like trying to follow. Which, by the way, Jack's got like a bike that has like drone wings at the side, so she's like on a hover bike. Yeah. But is this a real thing?
Also straight out of Minority Report, but whatever. I'm done with it now.
I mean, is this a real thing? Is this based on any real tech that's brewing?
I mean, I've seen videos online. I couldn't tell you if they're real or not, but like,
okay,
people make these.
It was basically just a big drone that had like a biker seat on it that she was flying.
And that's the other bit, is that they say like, "Oh, she needs to fly out to the chemical company in order to check on that, and it's going to take like 40 minutes." And when they reveal she's on the hover bike, I'm like, you can fly over everything. How the hell does it take 40 minutes to get anywhere?
Yeah, but then they get to the guy's house. She gets to the guy's house really quickly after that, though.
Yeah, like 10 seconds.
They pull a speed here as well, where it's like, oh, of course he's left a small explosive back to get the police when they come rummaging in. So the SWAT team ends up all on fire. And
that's where Matt, oh my God. Okay, so they also, at this point, this is the point where they break their framing device of all this other stuff they've done via the internal camera systems. They've done via this idea of like, okay, it's all based on whatever cameras are going at a specific time. Every once in a while in the movie, Maddox would do a thing of like full 3D immersion if they have the ability to, of like, we're walking through the house, you're looking for evidence.
Oh, yeah.
The whole room is there. But when the bomb goes off, despite the fact that the bomb just went off, this is not a previous recording or anything, and the fact it would have taken every single camera with it, for some reason, they decide to have the room that he's in just on fire for the next like 10 minutes because theming.
Yeah, via hologram, of course. It's not real fire, but they just wanted this visual to put in the trailer of him surrounded by fire. That's it. Yeah, that's all it is.
Exactly. It's so dumb. And there's also the bit that then ties it all together of like, why is he so angry? Before the garage explodes, oh my God, before the garage explodes, they find a photograph that is ripped in half of a young boy, and they do photo recognition on this photo and determine that the half that we have is a young Bob, And the other half, which I guess was just at some point uploaded to the cloud despite being taken back in like 1980 something, but who cares about that? The other half of it is a brother that was split up by the foster care system with him. And this brother just so happened to be the first guy that was ever convicted in the mercy court for a murder. And that's why Bob is so pissed off, is because his brother didn't deserve that.
Yep. And he happened to run into Chris Pratt at AA, became his sponsor, and started plotting his plan. And then just to add on the extra tension here, and this is where I really started to roll my eyes with how generic this is like, they try to like phone the daughter, and the daughter's like doesn't answer her phone, the grandfather does, and he's like, oh, no, she went out. And it's like, oh god, they're really doing it. Because you also see, like, you know, the drone goes upside the truck, they find the truck on the highway driving towards central LA, and sure enough, it looks like he's talking to someone inside the truck. Let's check the footage, shall we, outside the grandparents' house. Oh, he went by and picked up his daughter, he kidnapped her.
Dude, as they showed that kidnap footage, she was screaming at the top of her lungs, "Grandpa, Grandpa!" And then, like, the grandpa, as we see him answer the phone later, is like, I guess she went outside or something, whatever.
Yeah, these grandparents clearly don't like Chris Pratt very much, and fair enough, I don't like him very much either. But they cannot be casting stones after this incident.
Absolutely. It's like, hey, not only did I not murder your daughter, you let your granddaughter get kidnapped during the same thing. You're awful. You're not invited to the reunion anymore.
So now we've got this personal thing where the daughter's been kidnapped, and we've got Jack on her drone bike chasing after him. There's cop cars chasing after the truck as well. And the whole idea is that he is going to get to where the Mercy building is, where this court is, to blow it all up. But they also show, like, the size of the explosion in the garage was, you know, so big, and he's like, hey, is it possible that was all the explosives? And the AI's like, no, this is what the explosion would be based on how much material he had. And it just looks like a nuke. It looks like a nuke going off in the middle of LA.
I mean, for anyone who saw the I'm gonna blank on the name now, was it Beirut?
Yes, I think so. I know what you're talking about, though. Yeah,
you know, that big explosion that happened, that, like, it looks exactly like that. And fair enough, that was an actual real life, like, exactly what this is going to be.
So it's like, okay, I mean, not that I think we should be rooting for the bad guy here. He did kill someone, obviously, and he is willing to kill more. But it does feel like if he's trying to make some sort of point about, like, this system being corrupt and, like, innocent people shouldn't be killed, killing thousands of innocent people in your giant, like, megaton blast seems like a really weird mixed message to me.
Oh yeah, no, because they even explicitly say that, like, when Chris Pratt eventually, like, faces against him, he says, hey man, like, this isn't gonna clear your brother's name, this is killing more people in his name, it's gonna make things worse. To which Bob responds, shut up.
Like, maybe just something to take out the building, perhaps, would have been a smarter play.
You want to destroy this thing, but no, I guess LA can't be saved because it's LA in the future. Like, whatever.
Yeah, it's so weird. Anyway, so
yeah, the only thing I want to bring up is the taking of the daughter specifically felt to me like the scriptwriters working backwards, and it was working backwards all the way back to him being declared innocent. It's like, okay, we have already made it throughout the entire course of this movie that he should have been innocent much, like, earlier on. He should have lost however much percentage. We can't stop it anymore. At the point where we find the guy making the bombs and he is actively driving to blow up the courthouse, yeah, he's innocent. We need to say that now. But the movie still needs to continue. And the fact that he's saying, yeah, you know, the trial, we can use all this stuff, we can get extrajudicial with it, that'd be fine, but really thinking about it, what does he do with that? All the cops are already scrambled. All the SWAT team are doing their plans. What does he do that has any impact on it by being able to see the files?
I mean, he figures out the whole brother thing, I suppose. But, I mean, or foster brother, you know, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. The foster brother thing happens before the garage explodes.
Oh, does it? Okay, so he... Yep. I mean, he has like the eyes and ears of the cameras, I guess. Like, I mean, it's not much, admittedly.
Yeah. No, and that decision is made before he knows his daughter is in the truck. Like, if it were, I need to be involved so I can see my daughter and like help her through this, that'd be something. But he makes the decision beforehand. And it just feels like every step of this is working backwards from the viewpoint of we need to keep him in this chair until the timer says 5 seconds.
Now, again, he doesn't know this when he makes that choice, but when he does know he has his daughter, he does talk to him via like the drone. Like the drone goes in front of the truck, and somehow there's a perfect mic picking up the guy inside the truck.
I think the explanation was that Maddox was lip reading, but then also we hear him, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's ever clunky. What I do want to say though is a couple things that happen in the chase here before he does get to the building. Is one. There's a bit that made me laugh hysterically where Jack on her hoverbike gets kind of hit and she just goes flying off to the side, and it really made me laugh. It was very comical. Two, there's a whole bit where the police decide we're just going to like use a remote control detonator and like drive under the truck and blow it up. And yeah, it sucks that the girl has to die, but this is a big... And to be fair, yes, this is going to kill thousands of people. Maybe it isn't acceptable.
But they when they're planning on doing this, they diverted it farther out of the main central city. Yes. So it's going to kill less people.
So they're going to do that. And I guess there's a little bit of ambiguity here where they think it's just like it didn't fire, it's a mischarge, right? Plan B. And Chris Pratt looks at Rebecca Ferguson and is like, was that you? Did you intervene? And I'm like, you have not set up enough for this with this AI character to even like hint that she intervened here because she cares about the person.
That's the thing, is that they do that and they make it all mysterious. They never officially say it, but like they lean on it heavily. And then fast forward to the bit where Jack gets knocked off of a bike. The reason that happens is because she opens fire on the truck. She like starts shooting at the driver saying like, yeah, I have a shot, I'm taking it. And because it's putting the daughter in danger, we see Maddox gets involved again. Rebecca Ferguson is the one that disables her bike, and that's what caused it to crash. Yeah. That one's not even up for debate. Like, she explicitly does that.
Yeah. It's also very strange how, like, this whole, like, everyone follows her orders, including the cops, where it's like, she's just meant to be like the judge of this case, and yet it seems like she's just straight up giving orders, and like everyone's following. It's very strange. Like, are you running an investigation here, AI, or are you just here to judge the guilt or not? I don't know. It's very strange. Yeah.
Again, I think it comes from the idea of like, hundreds, thousands will die, like millions are going to be dead if we don't do something about this, and it's trying to pick up on that. Oh, the AI has emotions, or this part of her core list of tasks is protect human life, and this is conflicting with her just being impartial sort of thing.
So anyway, it gets to the building, and they sort of do this thing where, because I think it's the building's hit with the truck or whatever, but like the power in the building is acting up. So the AI starts like glitching out, and it's when the countdown timer to the chair automatically killing him is almost at 0, and he's like, hey, time to end the trial, Maddox, please, now's the time. So it's just forced tension. It's completely just a bullshit reason to make you think, oh, maybe she won't do it in time so we can have another little tense, thrilling scene, and that's it. Like a lot of the tension in this movie, it's so fabricated and unearned, but this one's especially like egregious because it just feels like, oh, out of nowhere, here's a reason to think that he might still get killed in the chair. Oh no, last second she got him out of it. Never mind.
Plus, even on top of that, like the idea that like, oh, I don't have control over the chair. The chair is a completely separate function of the AI, so that way it explains at the end here, even while she's disabled, the chair is still going to be active. My counterpoint to that is, he still has 15 seconds left in his trial. If she doesn't have any control of the chair, why does he need to be executed at the 0 mark? Like, let him sit for 2 minutes. Why does this need to happen as we're counting down? Like, he's getting leaned back, the things are getting like wrapped around his neck. Meanwhile, if he was close to proving his own innocence, like, yeah, give him that extra time. He's got 90 minutes.
But the villain, Rob, has crashed into the building. He's in the lobby with the daughter. He's got a machine gun, and he's like holding her hostage. Chris Pratt like talks to Maddox a little bit and says, all right, I'm going down there. And of course, Maddox ends up being on the screen in the lobby as well to talk to the bad guy and get involved. And Chris Pratt has a standoff with him and says, hey, like, talk to the judge, like, here, like, talk to the AI, like, prove because he's like, hey, I knew he was innocent, my brother was innocent, and he explains that he was on the phone to him the time that the murder supposedly happened, and he tries to explain his case.
All right, no, we gotta pause here just for a moment.
Okay.
Like, yes, he's saying all this, but like in the explanation of the movie, this is all being explained away like as it's happening, and it's all just to get the daughter away. Like, Pratt's just waiting for his time to jump in, get the daughter away. You're not meant to be paying attention to anything that this guy is saying, because all of the visual language is pointing to this is all just waiting for a window to get him away from the dead man switch, to get the daughter away from him.
However, despite you saying all that, it does become important, because he starts explaining his case, and Rebecca Ferguson is like, oh, that's not enough, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, no, I was on the phone to him. He had a cell phone. And he's like, oh, there's no cell phone logged. What happened to the cell phone? And it's like, they start talking about this. And then in the middle of the conversation, out of nowhere, Rob, it was a bit of a struggle because he has a dead man switch for the bomb, and Chris Pratt gets that. There's a whole struggle. It doesn't really matter.
Pratt does this whole follow-up on the thing of like, I should shoot you. You killed my wife, but like, I won't because I'm a good cop. Yeah,
you're going to like go to trial, blah, blah. And then out of nowhere, the bad guy gets shot a couple times, and it's Jack. Jack's showing up, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Are we about to do a twist?
Let's introduce a whole new thing.
Are we about to say Jack's kind of a bad guy too? Why? How? Why? And then the subject comes up of this, the brother, the first person who ever went in the Mercy Court. He apparently killed someone, but what about this phone? There was no phone. Well, does that, where did the phone go? And all of a sudden, we start talking about evidence, and Jack was the arresting officer with you. She's the one who was logging stuff into evidence. We start pulling up camera footage from the police station.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, this technically isn't an official trial. Why does she have access to all these cameras and the grid and the network?
I believe the excuse is that when she's talking to Bob, she says, all right, let the addendum case begin, or whatever. So I think that's their workaround. So
she has like an official, like, this case has been reopened button that she was able to press.
Yeah.
That give her, fair enough. I mean, it's still a bit of a, like, convenience.
It's made like the person's dead, and the whole point of this is supposed to be speedy trials that we don't have to worry about this stuff for.
Yeah, and also, if you're going to make one of your pivotal plot points is that Chris Pratt chooses to stay in the chair to access this stuff because otherwise it would be inaccessible, you can just have an easy reason to access it later on. It cheapens the whole thing.
It gets to 0, and then all of a sudden it's just like, hey, we need to reopen the case. Just say that you have extra evidence. She'll reopen it. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
So they start showing footage of her in the evidence room and all that, and then the very suspicious part is where she stops on the highway and throws something into the water, and like Chris turns at her and is like, what is this? And she's like, the first case with Mercy had to be a slam dunk, otherwise no one would believe in it. If you let this get out there, the entire thing will come crumbling down. And he's like, maybe it should come crumbling down. And like, it seems like the AI agrees, and she like, she turns off. Chris Pratt hugs his daughter. Roll credits.
I liked Minority Report.
I didn't even like Minority Report that much.
This is just the end of Minority Report, but without all of the setup of the rest of the movie being this idea of like, should the system exist? Is there a good thing going on here? Or like, is pre-crime worth it? This is the dumbest turnaround. I
want to be clear here. I do not like Minority Report, and I especially hate the back half of Minority Report. I don't like all the twists in that movie. I don't like all that stuff. This is an even worse version of all of those ideas, right?
Absolutely.
Not the precog stuff, obviously, because there's no precogs in this, but the idea of the person who built it, one of them being corrupt and like using it for their own gain, and it's so out of nowhere. It's so just like I don't know, like, if you really wanted to make this about should we be doing this or not, maybe one of the things you could have seeded throughout the movie and some of the backstory exposition you were showing is like, I don't know, protests. Maybe people are protesting this system because they think it's, barbaric, or it's prime for exploitation, or prime for failures and mistakes and all the rest of it.
Right now, 2026, the number of people who are up in arms against AI being used for things that don't matter at all is at like 90%. The fact that it would be used in a justice system where it is in movie labeled as judge, jury, and executioner, you should have people rioting in the streets over this.
Yeah, and the movie as well, it's worth mentioning, it was ultra slick in a lot of ways, but there's no sense of like atmosphere or style. In fact, the opening where it's explaining this and it comes up in text saying judge, jury, executioner, explaining what the system is for the audience, it just feels so derivative and devoid of any of its own personality. It just feels like, ironically, it feels like AI just scanned a bunch of like other sci-fi movies and just pumped them in. Here we go.
Yeah. No, there are so many movies. Like, again, I brought up RoboCop, the idea of like the primary functions, the Minority Report, that you said there was a little bit of speed in there, not sci-fi, but still, like, there's so many things that just were cobbled together into what this movie is that not a single piece of it feels original. And then the gimmick of it being A, a real-time movie, and B, a movie that primarily, let's be honest, consists of just looking at screens. All of it feels cheap. All of it feels like it's been done to death already. And I'm just, none of it was good. Like it didn't work by the time we hit the end.
Yeah, I remember in Speed, like when he has to wrestle the dead man switch out of Dennis Hopper's hand, and remember how riveting that was, them fighting on top of the train and all the rest of it. And here it's basically just like holding his hand down and trying to grab at it as quickly as possible, whilst also holding his other arm with his feet so that he can't fire a gun at him. It's I don't know, it just wasn't exactly the most exciting conclusion to anything. that was the bit of the script where
the AI just put, and then they wrestle and he gets the thing.
Yes.
Like, just had to put that on the screen as fast as possible there. Tiny little thing that I forgot to bring up at the beginning, but I was looking at the cast list.
Sure.
During the intro sequences, they're going through like, oh, here's how we got to Mercy Court, blah, blah, blah. One of the newscasters is...
Oh yes. Yeah. You heard with Perd.
It's Perd Hapley from Parks and Rec. And I'm like, you can't have this guy as a newscaster while Chris Pratt is running around.
Oh, I didn't even make the Chris Pratt connection. That's a good point. But like, no, Here's the thing. That actor has done the newscaster role in a lot of different shows and movies. And he's done it. I've seen it in a few things since Parks and Rec where he's done this, where he's been the newscaster. The problem is, if you watch Parks and Rec, you cannot take his voice seriously as the newscaster delivering bad news, because all I hear is his Parks and Rec character. It is so distracting.
Like, as soon as he came out, and this is the serious bit, this is the bit where, like, they're telling you, like, Mercy Court was the only thing that brought us back from the brink of destruction. And I just expect him to be like, and that was the news as I delivered it today. Like, just doing the Perd thing.
Because you hear his voice first, and I'm like, that's Perd. And then you see his face, and I'm like, it is Perd. And I'm just like, yes. Oh, a man murdered his wife, so she is dead. This has been the news where things have happened with Perd Hapley. I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez. And yeah, the whole thing's... It's you know, like... We've seen worse. It's not the worst thing we've done. It's arguably not even the worst thing we've seen Chris Pratt in. But it's definitely in the bad to very bad level, where it's ultra slick, it's devoid of like any real creativity, it's just running through a bunch of tropes, but without doing any of the actual legwork in the script to justify those tropes. Like, I'm a sucker for trying to like prove like a computer or a robot wrong. I'm a sucker for trying to like solve like a crime in a condensed amount of time and make your arguments as to why it's like, you know, doubtful or whatever, right? I'm a sucker for so many of these tropes. Even a movie set in one location, I'm a sucker for that trope. But none of it is actually justified or used in any way where you can actually like, you know, when the one or two moments they hint that, oh, maybe he's convinced the computer that she's wrong, and maybe she's like wrestling with that and struggling with it. It's so out of nowhere that it just feels tacked on. Like, they didn't even think about it until, oh, we should really add that in. Maybe we'll do a couple of reshoots, and that's all we'll get.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it's, I'm got the exact same thing you, where I'm a sucker for so many of these tropes, but it just feels like, and that's the part that baffles me the most, is that this was a theater release, because everything about this screams second screen content.
Do you know what it is? It has the tropes, but it's not actually got the themes that go along with the tropes, right? The idea of the artificial intelligence either being proven wrong, or the idea of this system that just instantly kills people, but there might be mistakes. The themes that come along with these things, right, that you get in science fiction about what that says about humanity if the robot's alive or can be convinced that it's wrong, or the themes of the corruption in the systems and the idea of like why we have to have room for doubt and all that. These are themes, and they usually accompany these subjects because that's what they lead to, and that's what you explore as a story. But this movie in no way is exploring the idea of convincing a machine anything or convincing an AI anything. It just suddenly brings it up out of nowhere. And there was nothing thematically, never mind like story and plot to like suggest it, but there was nothing thematically to even relating to it. It's not like part of the crime involved something that would relate to it, like something where he thinks another machine made a mistake or something. I don't know what it would be, but like there's nothing.
It's just something like, again, the idea of like going back to that first case, the idea of it being, like if this doesn't happen, it's going to bring the whole system down. There should be some sort of theming in there where everyone who's sent to Mercy Court is guilty. And the idea that if he is found innocent would be putting the system itself at risk. It would be saying that like, this, and so there's this already mitigating factor where everyone believes he's guilty, and therefore him finding innocence there is something that's going to upset the system. But instead, like, it's just kind of a pessimism thing. It's just a thing where he at one point is like, man, nobody's ever been found innocent, despite the fact there's only been 19 cases, you damn idiots. But
it's almost like if you had 12 Angry Men, right? And obviously a big part of that is to show why we have to have beyond the shadow of a doubt, right? Or beyond a reasonable doubt. And why we're innocent until proven guilty, right? And that's obviously, these are big themes in there. And obviously it brings in this idea of prejudice and why people think a certain way and they've already made up their minds in certain ways and so on. It's almost like if you decided you were going to do a movie about that subject, but weirdly, when you actually like write your script, that main idea is an afterthought. It's like you started with that, but then wrote a trashy thriller instead, and then at the end said, oh yeah, my idea was supposed to be about tackling that subject. Oh, write a couple of scenes in that just kind of tie into it. Done deal. Call it a day.
Again, I said that in the middle. I feel like this movie was made backwards. I feel like they started with everything that should come at the end, and then like the idea of theming and the idea of larger ideas they want to tackle was like the last thing that they could have possibly worked on, because nothing in here adds up. Not a single thing top to bottom makes sense of like, oh yeah, why this, why that. It feels like all of it was put together for the sole purpose of, we have an okay mystery story, but it's not going to stand on its own as a mystery, so we need to pop it up with pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, that's what it is. And I mean, you say like backwards. It's not like movies are written in order, obviously, right? In fact, if anything, technically they should be written backwards in some ways, and you should know where your story's going before you start writing it, so that you know what you're building to, right? And there's layers to that. You do like a treatment where you'll sort of like map it out, and then you'll write it actually scene for scene, and so on and so on. But the point I'm making is, though, when we say backwards here, we're not mean literally starting in the last scene and writing backwards. Right. What we mean is that you usually start with a concept and a theme. Like, okay, this is the story concept, and this is what I want the story to be talking about, and then you build from there. This movie does not feel like it started with those two things. Maybe the plot concept, maybe they had that in some way, but they didn't have the themes. They didn't have what they actually wanted to say with it, and they just started filling in things once they realized things. It was very patchwork.
No, but even from the beginning, even when we say at the very beginning here, the idea of Mercy Court generated from there being so many crimes, so many crazy things going on, that they needed to speed up the system. They needed to do something because like nothing about Mercy Court is inherently itself a deterrent. Nothing about it is like, oh, you get a Judge Dredd walking in. That just immediately, it's just a faster way to process people. And yet for some reason, it's not used on low-level crimes like drug busts or something like that, where evidence is overwhelming. It's used on these high-profile murder cases, which absolutely should be overseen and taken more time with.
Yeah, also, it doesn't really seem like it's affected the city that much. I mean, at least it doesn't show you that, oh, crime's down X% because of this stuff.
They show one graph right at the beginning of the movie that says crime is down by like 200% or whatever. But then they also immediately follow that up by saying that these red zones that they made, which all hold the criminals, are still there.
Yeah, I was going to say there's these war zones. I forgot what they were called. Yeah, they're called red zones. But it's like, oh, this is places where like it's just constant like RoboCop style gang wars happening, and like cops are going in and like their cars are flipping over, and I'm like, this doesn't feel like it's a complete, like maybe if you showed us like, because normally what happens in a story like this, right, where you've got this system that is seemingly made something that feels like maybe more of a utopia, is that you show the effect. You say, hey, it used to be really bad, and now we have Demolition Man world, right? And then over the course of the movie, you realize how it's a bit of a lie, right? It's not really that true, and there's a bit corrupt and so on and so on. But at face value, you say this is why people wanted this in the first place, because it's gotten all these results. We see no evidence of results here. we just it seems to be business as usual, just that Mercy Corps also exists.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hard agree with you. I found myself, like I said, at the beginning of this, I felt like there was going to be a turn off my brain and just kind of enjoy it as the action movie it is. But as it kept going and getting more contrived and more just completely derailed from any sense of internal logic or reality or anything, I found myself getting more and more pissed off with it. So by the time it ended, I appreciated it more than the trailer was giving me, but that's not saying much.
I would say it's a bad movie. It's a terrible science fiction movie. And what I mean by that is that it's bad and it's contrived and it's all these things in a general movie sense, right? And things don't quite add up. But in terms of exploring any of the science fiction things that it's actually got in its plot, all these concepts, it's abysmal. It doesn't do anything with any of them that's interesting. They feel like afterthoughts for the most part. Never mind actually saying anything new with them or even just competently using them in any way, shape, or form. So, no. Yeah. No.
So, like, 8 out of 10, probably.
All right, David, what are you giving Mercy out of 10?
Boy. You know, if you were to ask me, like, just as I finished the movie, I don't think I would have breached the 5, but I would have been like right up on it. I would have been like right there of like, yeah, it was an unoffensive movie. But the more I sit and I think about it and I go through all the different things that it did, yes, I really didn't like this one. So I think in the ratings rundown, the major categories got low scores. So I feel like I can't say that it gets anything above like 3.5. I think that's kind of where I'm at on this one.
Yeah, my gut was kind of saying 3.
I want to find Tomorrow War, see what I gave that. I gave that one a 4. Yeah, I stand by that.
Yeah. I could even be argued out a 2.5 though, if I'm honest.
Do it.
I could be argued down to that. And part of it, I'm just thinking about Letterboxd and where it'll round to star-wise. And I'm like, I kind of want to give it 1 star on there versus 1.5 star.
It's your rating. It's your private choice. I don't have any say in this one.
Yeah, I'm going 2.5. It's terrible. Right. It's terrible. I've seen worse in many ways, but once you actually start taking count of everything, and I'm not the one that started this review by saying it's not as bad as I thought it would be. That was David that said that.
Look, anyone watch the trailer first. If you haven't watched it, watch the trailer first, and then watch the movie. And you tell me if it isn't at least a little bit better than a trailer was promising, because the trailer sucked.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go. That's mercy. I have nothing to add at this point. This has already been a pretty lengthy review, all things considered, for a complete heap of shit that this movie is. So, if you enjoyed watching us talk about a bad movie, we have a bonus show on Patreon called Extra Reels that we do once a month, which you get for supporting us over there. So please do. It does help a bunch. Thanks to everyone who already does. We got like 40 plus episodes of that now, so if that sounds like fun, go check it out. We also do the ratings rundown segment for every episode, where we go, we rate the visuals, the sound, the script, the acting, all that kind of thing. So you can go check out that as well, both for this show and Collector's Cut, the other movie show that me and David do, where we do seasons of movies. We're doing like a John Woo Hong Kong action season right now. So if that sounds fun, check that out too. But yeah, that's the show. Other than, of course, David's homework, which we'll get to. But I should tell you what's coming next week on the show, though. Before that, so
sure. Next
week on the Atomic Cinema Experiment, we will be looking at the vote winner we had recently on Patreon. We'll be looking at M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. So. Signs was before Shyamalan really took his downswing. Yes.
In most people's eyes. But if you told me, hey, 2026 movie with theater release starring Chris Pratt, or an M. Night Shyamalan film in general, I probably would have gone with the Chris Pratt. Just shows how dumb I am.
Well, to be fair, Shyamalan also kind of rose back up again eventually. Maybe not to the same level as those first few movies, but still, like he's had some fun, interesting little movies in the last few years.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I haven't watched them, but I've heard good things. So
there's some interesting stuff. Like they're kind of he's a director, right? He's a director's director. You can feel him directing these movies for better or worse. And if you like kind of the weird things he likes to experiment with, then you can get something out of them. But
I'm not even sure if he directed it. The only one I remember seeing recently was it Trap? Was that the name of it?
Yeah, he did that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's the only one I saw somewhat recently, and that was okay.
Flawed, but I kind of still liked a lot of. Like it's like there's things I don't like about it, but the things I liked about it, I really liked about it. So
yeah, no, I got that.
Anyway, this should be an interesting conversation on Signs next week. Anyhow. So look forward to that. But yeah, David every week goes back and watches one of the movies we did on the show before he joined the show, so he can eventually be cut up and everything, and we can do big countdowns and stuff because he's just as well versed as I am. Yeah. So what was this week's homework movie, David?
Well, I really wanted it to be Minority Report, but unfortunately I'd already done that one. So I also was trying to get another Chris Pratt movie, but it seems there aren't any. Seems I've already gone through all those. So in the end, I had to just pick something random. And because of a countdown that will eventually be coming up, I need to get this one out of the way. I did Wall-E.
Okay.
Yeah, completely unrelated. Much more uplifting.
Wall-E. There you go.
Kind of a massive genre shift, because I did almost watch these back to back. I think I had like a 30-minute break in between. Much better. I like Wall-E a lot more. Significantly so. If anything, I feel like that point we were making constantly of this movie didn't know how to handle its like sci-fi themes and how to do that sort of stuff. Wall-E is the one that surprises in how deftly it does manage to do that. Like, you go in with some preconceived notions of like, oh, it's an animated kids film. How much are we really going to get into it? But like the background lore of that movie that is just kind of presented in passing rather than explicitly drawn out is so in depth that I love the world that they created there. And then add on top of it, like, yeah, no, it's just a solid plot to begin with. It's got some good action scenes, got some levity, got some... I mean, you want to talk about an actual movie with the romance subplot. There you go. That one's got one of the most solid ones I've seen in a while. So, yeah, no, Wall-E's a great movie. I don't think I've seen it in at least half a decade, at least 5 years. So, good to return to it. But, yeah, overall, rating-wise... I was between a 9 and an 8.5. I think I'm going to settle on the 8.5 because it's just, I don't know, a gut feeling. A 9 needs a little bit of extra something special, but it is fantastic as a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wall-E. I think the first half's great. I think the back half, like, I get the point of it all, but I think once you start seeing like the human characters, I'm kind of like, this is not as interesting or as like elegant as when it was a silent movie, effectively. And I like that half quite a bit.
I agree. I think the first half does set you up with a certain expectation of like, the Wasteland Warrior sort of thing, but I can see, in order for this movie to get made, it was never going to be just that, at least under Disney, I would love to see Darren Aronofsky's Wall-E, but this ain't it.
Fair enough. But there you go. That's David's homework. So that'll bring it into the show, everyone. So yeah, join us for Signs next week. But that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Keep watching science fiction and computer ad salsa.